Hey guys, so I really wanted to do this vegan countdown in Lisbon with you guys actually outside on the street, but as you can see, it is raining cats and dogs. It has been such a rainy week, so I'm actually inside one of the restaurants at the LX factory, which it's just a couple of buildings that used to be old Portuguese factories, and they've just turned it into shops and markets. And this one in here, if you guys can see, it used to be an old printing shop as well, so there's like these really big orange boxes that are printing presses, so it's actually quite cool. Since we're in here now, I'm gonna go through the list of my top vegan restaurants with you guys in Lisbon. Also, just some like travel and eating tips while you guys are here. Like, I wrote that down. So, number one is that Google Maps can be very confusing here. And the reason is because Lisbon is multi-level. So there's like hills, there's stairs, and it's more of a 3D landscape versus your Google 2D. So you're gonna find that, you know, when you walk around, you might get lost, or you might turn down the wrong street, or it might be like they're talking about a street that's on the under level, but you're on the street at the upper level. So just be really aware of that. If necessary, just, you know, call a taxi or call an Uber, because it might be just a little bit easier for you to get around, and they're not too expensive here. So the second thing, and this is very kind of typical of European countries, is they have kind of the morning service of like, let's say 8 till about 3 o'clock, and then they actually have a break in between. So like from 3 to 7, a lot of the restaurants aren't open, and from 7 till, let's say, midnight, the restaurants open again. So the thing that's really cool about Lisbon is it is a very late city. I do see a lot of things open, like markets and restaurants that are still open even at midnight. So it's going to be a very cool city to tour around in, definitely at night. Now, along with those kind of siesta breaks, I will say to kind of be careful about Mondays and Tuesdays, because those are the days that restaurants typically take a break. I mean, those are days that usually like the restaurants or like even museums take a break on those 2 days. So before you kind of hop on a train and have to go too far, just make sure that the restaurants are open during those days. So number 3, and it might not be all too pertinent for vegan restaurants per se, but Lisbon is getting a lot more tourists. So number 3 is call ahead to those restaurants. It's good to just, I mean, as you plan around your trip, just to make sure that you can get in some food on time and not have to wait. I mean, most of the waits are about like 30 minutes to an hour if you happen to pick one that is, you know, a very popular restaurant. So number 6, I think that's the number that we're on, is credit cards and cash. My experience has been half-half. Like, there are half in some restaurants that just say that they accept cash. There are many that accept credit card as well. But the tricky thing here in Portugal is actually a lot of them require you to have Portuguese credit cards. So, you know, your normal Visa or American Express might not work here. So just ask ahead. There's usually ATMs all over the place, just so that you can be prepared for that. I mentioned this in Berlin before, but number 7 is that not many of the restaurants always have websites here. So you might have to log into Facebook. Somebody told me that they use the site Zomato a lot for restaurant reviews. Obviously, the Happy Cow as well, for you guys to see some photos. Maybe there's some photos of the menu there as well, because not everybody has a website. The good thing is everybody here speaks English. They speak English really well, like everybody does. So you're not gonna have too much of a problem. I'm just going through my list right now. That is it for now, so let's head on over to my list. So the first restaurant that I recommend, and I'm embarrassed about how many times I've actually been there, is this little nostalgic, secretive, really romantic but awesome, like old-time, very charmy feeling. It's called the Food Temple. It is absolutely my favorite. Besides the food, which is super creative, it's a new menu every day, but it's chef's choice, right? So there's usually like 3 tapas, there's a soup, there's a main meal, and then a couple of desserts, and also like beer and wine as well. So there's the food, and it happens to be really creative, but it's like this really like lovely kitchen that you can sit and you can watch people cook, and then there's also the outside area where it's just a bunch of steps, and on occasion if the restaurant is actually super full, they just let people eat outside there. It's sort of just like a very cool, it has a very secretive, romantic, hole-in-the-wall vibe to it, but I think it's one of those that everybody recommends because everybody knows it, and it's just magnificent. I would say just a really nice place to kind of like hang out, chill out with your friends for the night, and just talk the night away. It's that kind of a place. My second recommendation is AO26, and from what I understand, I feel like this is sort of like the vegan place to go to, and if there was a restaurant that I would call ahead in, I would call ahead for this one. And the cool thing about the food there is that they do recreate a lot of the Portuguese dishes, like the francesinha. They have a vegan version there, and then the bifana, which is essentially, it's just like a pork sandwich, and they do a lot of those recreations there. The dessert is really nice. It's just the lines can be a bit long, so make sure to plan ahead for that one. So my next restaurant is Jardim das Serenas, and I guess in Lisbon there's a lot of these places that do like vegan or vegetarian buffets, and they're kind of like quite prevalent, I guess. And this is one of those. So for lunch, I believe it was €8.50, and for dinner it was €10.50, and it's just like an array of salads and curries. I would say a lot of the foods kind of feel like they're Indian in origin, but it was very tasty and it kept me very, very full. My next restaurant is Vegana Pati, and that is definitely more Indian in origin. Now the item that I would recommend there that I was so sad that I didn't get was actually the masala dosa, because as opposed to like how they do it everywhere else, they actually built this like huge pyramid around the filling, so when they present it, it actually looks so cool coming out, and the food was actually very, very delicious there, in addition to a lot of like kind of like Middle Eastern Indian desserts with like cardamom and rose. Yeah, it was a very nice and really welcoming place. The next one that I have for you is Princesa or Princesa do Castelo, and a couple of people recommended this one to me. Now I would say that this is a very small restaurant, and the meals that you're going to get there will feel very homely as well. So it's very comforting, but nothing too fancy. You're just going to get, you know, really nice food, and it's a very kind of like cozy and small atmosphere. Now I'm going to talk about some cafes that you guys might like to visit as you walk around the city. The first one that I went into was actually a cafe called 8, and it was actually in the Plaza Figueria. So it's nice because there's a lot of like walking and shopping around in that area as well, but then also this like completely vegan cafe that does, you know, your like your typical chai lattes, your soy lattes. They have bowls. They have, you know, very clean sandwiches. You know, nothing crazy, nothing too new, but it is a very kind of like nice and clean. Decor is really simple. There's 2 floors there in case if the bottom fills up. My next cafe recommendation is actually Food Prints, and I actually think it's pretty well known because it's also a yoga studio as well, and it's a little bit up north, so I don't necessarily think it's always close to everything, I guess depending on where you guys go, but it's also one that does a lot of like smoothies, vegan shakes. I actually tried something called the gado-gado there, which is this Indonesian dish that typically has like tempeh and tofu in it anyways, in addition to some hard-boiled eggs, but I think they just omitted that and did a vegan version with peanut sauce on the tempeh, and that was really, I think, like very warm and comforting. And they also have these like avocado toasts and also some Nutella toasts, so if you're kind of into that kind of a thing, Food Prints would definitely be for you. I'm going to include some of the markets that I've been into. So one of them, the big one, is going to be the Time Out Market. But I also went to some other ones that's like the Campo Dori was also nice as well. I'm going to say that they do not have a lot of vegan options, but it's definitely one of those markets, like especially for the Time Out, where one side is fruits and vegetables, and usually it's much busier in the morning because that's when the restaurants go, and it closes right at around 2 p.m. so make sure to kind of head there early if you're looking to get some fresh fruits and vegetables for your trip. But they have also a couple of restaurants on the other side where, you know, some of the pizza restaurants, a Thai restaurant that does noodles, so you can always ask for like a tofu option or maybe like a pizza with no cheese, and that, you know, applies to a couple of the markets here as well. For the Campo Dori, that one is a little bit more low-key. It's not as crowded as the Time Out Market, so it's also really nice to hang out there as well. Anyways guys, I hope you all enjoyed this guide, and if you have any suggestions or any additions that you want people who are watching this video to also know, definitely leave it down in the comments below. I know that everybody benefits off of this. So yeah, I will see you guys again next time, okay? Bye!